Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Living Life at Life Hue. I am your host, Dr. Veronica Garcia, and today I am joined with Mr. Tyson Perez, Dr. Tyson Perez, actually. Hi Tyson, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing well.
I'm so happy to have you. So excited for us to shine a little bit of light in this beautiful person and resource that you bring to the school and to the students. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with, you are a doctor of chiropractic, yeah?
I am a DC PhD.
Double doctor. Okay, so let's go through that professional
Sure.
journey of yours.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit of what you did your undergrad and when did you do your DC?
Sure.
Then going through.
So I grew up in Oregon.
Yeah.
And from Oregon, I left to go to Canada. That's where I did my undergrad.
Okay.
And I did my undergrad in kinesiology and psychology.
Okay.
And then from Canada, I went back down to the States, did my DC here in the States, and practiced for 10 years. My specialty was in pediatrics, so I did that. And then from there, I left to go to New Zealand to do my honors and PhD research in neuroscience. And I spent, I think it was about 5.5 years over in New Zealand. And then Stephanie Sullivan, who was the director of the CCR here, she recruited me from New Zealand to come over here and head up the neuroscience.
Look at that. What a journey.
Yeah, it's fun.
So what inspired you to become a chiropractor?
So it was Canada initially. So basically when I went up there, the UFC had just launched. I remember this and I was really into it. And so I got into MMA when I got up into Canada and I was very new to it. And I remember sparring with this really experienced fighter one time and I got rocked. Like he gave me a head knock and I got a concussion really bad. I think he kicked me, but I don't quite remember. It's all kind of fuzzy, but I got a pretty significant concussion. Yeah. But the next day I could barely get out of bed. My neck was so stiff and I was just struggling. So I went to the Student Health Services and they gave me a bunch of painkillers and muscle relaxants. Yeah. I tried those for a few days, wasn't working. And so I was really suffering and there was a chiropractor across the street from my apartment complex. So I made my way down there and after a single visit, I felt so much better that was my first exposure to chiropractic. But I didn't really understand it at the time. Right. And so I don't know if it was, if he didn't explain it to me well or anything, but I probably only went for 1, maybe 2 visits. I don't recall. But I didn't think about it all until the end of my university. And I was sitting next to a friend in class and we were trying to figure out, or I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next when I graduated. He mentioned he was going to chiropractic school. And then that brought back the memories of what happened, when I got injured. I thought, oh, that sounds pretty cool, to be a doctor and do all that. So that's what really got me into it. And then I, got into chiropractic school and from there.
So where'd you graduate from?
From, at the time, it was called LACC, Los Angeles College of Chiropractic, but then it changed its name to Southern California University of Health Sciences. So,
That's amazing. Wow. And had you been exposed to Life University prior for you to work here?
Not really. I knew of Life University. I knew of all the major colleges and everything, and I knew of some of the research, but I didn't have much exposure to Life when I came here, so it was all quite new to me. And I've only been here almost 3 years now. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, I'm pretty new.
You mentioned also going back to practice. You mentioned you practiced for about 10 years or so in pediatrics.
Yep, that was.
Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so I was practicing. This was in Southern California that I was practicing, and what really inspired me is when my wife got pregnant. My whole focus turns towards pediatrics, and I was fortunate enough to have the ICPA, so the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association. They held their whole series in my practice. So I got that exposure. Dr. Drew Rubin, who I believe is here at the university, he came through. So I had that exposure to the pediatrics early on. So it was a great experience. And that was my favorite, doing the pediatrics. It was really, really challenging. And but that's why I loved it, because I always have to have a challenge. It was fun.
I love it. In practice, one of my favorite things is to take care of children, because I'm like, they're my boss. It's wherever they say what we're doing at that day.
And you see some of the most challenging cases like epilepsy and kids with autism and all sorts of different conditions. It's very challenging but very rewarding too. So it was fun. Yeah.
So what launched you to go to and do a PhD?
So I was always reading. So the way I set up my practice is I was doing like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then I had a lot Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday to read. And I noticed that there was a lot of literature on chiropractic philosophy, a lot in art, but there wasn't a whole lot in science. And I was looking for these. So I was seeing really cool things in practice, right? But I wasn't seeing the literature to support it so much, no robust studies. I'm pretty good academically. I could probably do this myself. So I was listening to a podcast, as a matter of fact, of somebody, I think it might have been Heidi Havoc, who she's a neuroscientist over there in New Zealand. And then I was like, oh, I've always wanted to go to New Zealand. It was on my bucket list. So I applied down there on the South Island of the University of Otago, got in, and I was like, okay, let's go for it and go do that PhD. So
wow. And you got recruited to come to Life University. Tell me a little bit about your role. How long have you been here?
I've been here almost 3 years.
Okay.
So I lead a team of neuroscientists and clinicians. And what we do is we look at how chiropractic affects the brain and peripheral nervous system. So autonomic function, motor function, sensory function, that's our primary role here.
That's amazing. That's amazing to have the opportunity already in chiropractic school as a student to get exposed to the impact, but now have the literature to support it while you're in practice. And it's such a valuable piece. Tell me a little bit about the projects you guys are working on right now.
So there are a lot.
As you bring out the giant list.
Yeah. So, for instance, we're doing a pediatric study up in Wisconsin looking at school-based chiropractic care. That's one of them. We're doing another pediatric trial, which is just about to launch in Illinois, looking at sensory processing disorder. We have a long COVID study going on in Massachusetts. We have post-concussion syndrome here, sports-related concussion. Metabolic syndrome. We have an obesity study that's just about to conclude, looking at how chiropractic affects psychoneuroimmunological function there. There are more. Depression. So there are so many we have going on right now, but all over the country.
So I noticed that. Tell me a little bit about the process of having from Life University and the research department all over the country, a lot of these.
Yeah. So we have what are called like lab-based research where we do the assessments in our lab. So we do things like high density EEG and all sorts of fancy stuff, but we also have research done in the field. So clinicians that are really interested in research can get a hold of us, and if they're really motivated and they have a good idea for a design, we can work with them to create a really cool research project that looks at what they're actually doing in practice. So those are fun too.
Wow. So we can get some other doctors involved. What's the process for having, if someone is listening in, is interested, what's the process?
So basically, they just need to contact us. Stephanie Sullivan in particular, she kind of handles all of that. She's the director of the CCR. And we can sit down and talk with them, and we can think up, if this is a good idea and a design, if it's practical. And if it is, basically they have to do a little bit of training, ethical training and stuff like that. And once they do that ethical training, we handle a lot of the IRB stuff. So we put in the proposals and everything to the institutional review board, get it approved, and then it's just off to the races from there. So
easy peasy.
Easy, yeah. It's not bad. The only difficult part is the city training. So doing the ethical training and all that takes a few hours when you're in practice and you're really busy. So it's kind of hard sometimes nailing the docs down to do that. But once that's done, it's good.
That's awesome. And tell me, I know that you were part of the symposium, the research.
The poster one.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yep.
What exactly does it entail? How to prepare for all those things?
Yeah. So that was a research symposium where most of from all around the university, people brought posters for the research they had done. So we all put up different posters, and there were a few speakers as well. But it really gave the students a chance to kind of see some of the research that's going on around here, which is a cool experience for them. My favorite thing to do is actually speak. So, posters are okay, but, I prefer the speaking aspect of it. Yeah. But I think it's really good to have something here at Life so that the students and the faculty can get exposed to the research and see what we're doing. Because some of them don't even know, what we're doing here.
Yeah, exactly. Which is one of the reasons why I love having this conversation for sure. And I love that we have that research series that shines a light into all the beautifulness that's happening. Because just to be able to put last names and to put yeses and nos and answer questions in the gray area, it's such an important piece to our profession, but also just to life and living. Just get some answers. Tell me something that you've discovered or assured that has shifted a little bit of your perspective or drive in your profession? I know there's a deep end question.
So can you rephrase that?
So can you share a research study that you've been a part of that has shifted or...
Yep, fair enough. So most of the research studies that we're doing right now are in the feasibility or pilot stages.
Yeah.
And what that basically means is we're looking to see if the studies can be done.
Okay.
So we're looking to see, can we actually recruit the population? Can we retain these individuals throughout the study? Will they adhere to the chiropractic that's recommended? So most of that is what we're doing in the studies. But I just recently completed an analysis. So the study was done before I got here. Nobody had done the analysis, but they had done high density EEGs. And what they had looked at, it was a quasi-experimental study where the individuals were either put into genuine chiropractic cervical care or sham. And we compared the differences. And what we found when I did the analysis was dramatic differences in the networks of the brain, particularly in the frontal areas. So the prefrontal cortex in particular. So there were dramatic connectivity differences between those that had been adjusted genuinely and those that had a sham adjustment. So I think it's really interesting showing that, the chiropractic looks like it's having a very strong impact, particularly in the prefrontal cortex networks. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. One of the big limitations of that study was that there were no clinical outcomes. It was just biomarkers, so things like EEG.
Yeah.
So in all of our new studies, we have built clinical outcomes in there as well. So basically things that are important to the individual or the patient, as well as the biomarkers. So, we'll see where that goes, but it's really kind of interesting to see, and it's exciting.
That is very exciting. Yeah. I'm very like, oh my gosh.
Major connectivity changes in the brain. So, and it aligns very well with what's been shown in New Zealand. They're seeing a lot of chiropractic changes, particularly in the frontal areas, the prefrontal cortex, and that aligns with what we saw as well. So
for anybody that's listening and I know this is a very lengthy question, but in a nutshell, what's the main purpose of the frontal cortex?
So it has a number of purposes. It's hard to nail it down, but one of the key areas is central executive function. So there's something called the central executive network, and it's housed. It's some of the key nodes are within the prefrontal cortex, so it allows us to perform working memory and allows us to inhibit emotions and things like that. So central executive function or executive function is one of the key aspects of it. So it'll be really interesting to see if the brain changes that we're seeing align with clinical outcomes for executive function. Does it improve things like working memory or people's ability to concentrate and focus, kids in school, things like that? So that's what we're looking at right now.
I love that. Yeah. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Definitely. And I'm sure this is going to be a lifelong development and project like research is.
Research takes a long time.
Yes.
It's a single project can take years, so it takes a long time to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your dedication and your peace and all the gems that you're bringing to the university. I'm extremely grateful to have you here as a resource. I'm sure Dr. Sullivan is as well, but everybody in the research department and all the students. Good luck in the rest of the projects. Good luck in the lengthy ones and the shorter ones. Good luck in the pilot stages.
Thank you. And we do have a sham study that's about to start. So if any students want to be part of that, they can ask.
Tell me more.
So we are looking to see if we can develop a good chiropractic sham. So we randomize people to either real chiropractic or sham chiropractic and see if they can tell the difference. So we want to see if we can actually blind them. So we're just about to start that. And that's an ideal project for students to get involved with. But the only caveat to that is the student has to be within the first, I think it's 3 to 4 quarters. We don't want somebody that's too experienced with chiropractic.
Right.
So they have to be relatively new to the university.
Okay.
But yeah, that should be starting in the next couple months.
That's a great call to action. All right. So you heard it here first. Joking. But you've listened, and if you're interested and you're in the first 4 quarters of the university, please. It's a great opportunity to be involved in research. Also seeing that other aspect of it besides just the class aspect of it that they're probably exposed to in the first few quarters. So that's really interesting. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. Good luck on the rest of the projects that you have, and good luck on this one. I'll be talking to my students about it. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of Living Life, a Life View. Have a good day. Bye.